here is also the amazing thing about Tucker Carlson, how despicable this guy is. So he's on with JD Vance on Monday night saying like, well, implying that the vaccination thing is a conspiracy by the government and the drug companies just to basically make money. But he also has this to say. This is clip number 5.
You'll remember that December of 2020 was the deadliest month to date in the COVID pandemic. More than 65,000 Americans had died that month. People were very afraid of the virus then. There was no treatment protocol for it. Vaccines seemed like the only hope. So the meeting was very significant. The CDC's chief medical officer, a person called Kathleen Dooling, unveiled her plan to distribute the vaccines nationally. She began by acknowledging that older Americans indeed faced the greatest risk, as everyone understood. So logically, if you wanted to save as many Americans as possible from dying, you would give preference, the very first shots, to people over 65. That's the obvious policy. It might be the only morally defensible policy. But there was a problem with doing that, she explained. Older Americans were too white. As Dooling put it, quote, racial and ethnic minority groups are underrepresented among adults aged 65 and older. And this meant, according to Dooling, they could not be allowed to get the first COVID shots, whether they needed them or not. So instead, Dooling recommended giving priority to a group the government started calling essential workers. Their main qualification was not that they were essential, but they were less white than old people. So that's what the CDC went with. Its panel overwhelmingly approved Kathleen Dooling's recommendation. None of this got a lot of notice at the time, but it was a major change. Never in American history, modern history in any case, has the federal government made it official policy to withhold life-saving medical treatment from Americans on the basis of their skin color.
Okay, so first off, let's just remember that at another point in his show on Monday, the vaccines are just a conspiracy by the government and the drug companies to make money.
And he was also saying reopen, reopen, reopen. So those essential workers who he said are not really essential, like just a throwaway there. Those were the ones who were at the front lines of his like pro-capitalist war. But
keep in mind here, he says the vaccines are fake.
Yes.
They're fake. They're promoted because somebody wants to make money. Then he's also adding the idea that 65 and over at that point are necessarily the most vulnerable during the lockdowns. Because the fact of the matter is that during the lockdowns, 65 and older were able to lock down. The most vulnerable during the lockdowns were the people who were suffering the highest rate of COVID contraction and death. And that happened to be substantially people who were not white because they had jobs that required them to travel and attend as opposed to working from home. If you are retired at age 65 and older and you can stay home, you are not at the same level of risk. Society is not requiring you or encouraging you or begging you to show up for work to sell gas, to sell groceries, to sell whatever it is.
Tucker Carlson is not asking you to do that either.
No, of course not. Because the measure of who was most at risk at that point was not just a function of biology. It was a function of behavior. There are concepts of R naught, and I think it's like RT. R naught is how contagious a disease is. And I think it's RT is how contagious a disease is based upon what action society is taking to protect people. And so you are part of the most vulnerable group. If society is locked down and you are required because of either you need money or because your job says we need you in here, you're going to get fired, or because society is like, you're an EMT, we need you. You are, if we've determined an essential worker, you are most vulnerable because you are actually going to have to go out and you cannot lock down, or you are not locking down. And that is what the CDC, this is prior to having vaccines anyways, was making a determination of. Now, by the time vaccinations did show up, it was a different dynamic. But Tucker goes from both saying that the vaccines are a scam. That's what he was saying with JD Vance running for Senate in Ohio. Vaccines are a scam. And then also saying, and not only are they a scam, they were being denied white people. So the government was both scamming and being racist, reverse racist in his mind with the vaccines. And in fact, neither was the case. It really is stunning that these guys, like that, these words can tumble out of this guy's mouth. I mean, just what a scumbag.
Yep.
The bad guy.
Really amazing to me. I mean, honestly, just like, hey, kids, come home from work. Hey, kids. Whether they're in Florida or Maine or wherever is, the house he's in at any given time. They're on vacation in Vail or whatever, they go skiing in Iowa or wherever it is, Idaho, who knows? Look at your kids and know that, like, I am taking care of you by going out there and spreading all sorts of lies that undoubtedly have led to death and pain by people. But of course, Tucker's been doing that for years, for decades. So,
Hey, you got to protect the tribe
exactly.
by killing others indirectly.
Really, I just find that just amazing.